During the Second World War, there were a huge amount of war crimes which were committed by the Japanese army. It's believed that due to the actions of the Japanese, between 3 million and 14 million people and civilians were killed and slaughtered at the hands of them. After the war, a number of Japanese generals and officials who were key to their war effort were brought to trial, in a trial similar to the Nuremberg trials. The Allies wanted the main aggressors brought to justice, and one man who was sentenced to death was General Yamashita. Yamashita was referred to as a Tiger of Malaya, and his command led to the fall of Singapore to Japan, which was considered to have been the largest capitulation in British military history and one of their biggest disasters. But on the gallows inside Laguna prison camp, he was hanged and was executed for his involvement in war crimes. Join us today as we look at the execution of General Yamashita, and remember to support our channel. Please make sure to subscribe. Yamashita was the son of a doctor, and in November 1905 he graduated from the Japanese Army Academy and was considered top of his class. He fought in World War I, and in May 1916 he was promoted to the rank of captain. Then he served as a military attaché in Bern and Berlin around 1920, and 2 years later he was promoted to the rank of major. He served inside the Japanese War Ministry and aimed to help to reform and streamline the Japanese army. He also worked inside the imperial headquarters, and further promotion came his way, but he became a rival to Hideki Tojo and other military generals and leaders. He later fell from favour in the eyes of Emperor Hirohito, as he wanted leniency for those rebel officers who were involved in a coup, and with this Yamashita resigned from the army as he had lost the faith of the emperor. Before the Second World War broke out in Europe, he wanted Japan to end the conflict with China, and he also wanted to keep peace with America and Britain, but his ideas were dismissed and ignored. He was later assigned the command of the 4th Division, which saw action in northern China, and he was then sent on a military mission to Germany and Italy, and whilst here would meet Hitler and Mussolini. Yamashita wanted the army to be continually evolving, but his ideas rubbed people up the wrong way, and he did have a significant amount of tension with Hideki Tojo, the war minister. But on the 6th of November 1941, General Yamashita was put in command of the 25th Army, and he believed that victory in Malaya could occur if the soldiers he had could make an amphibious landing. The Malayan campaign ended with the fall of Singapore, and with Japanese forces pushing through, and in February 1942, Yamashita's 30,000-strong frontline soldiers captured 80,000 British, Australian and Indian troops, which led to the largest surrender of British soldiers in history. For this, Yamashita was called the Tiger of Malaya, and his soldiers occupied Singapore and the area around. But inside of Singapore there were huge numbers of Japanese war crimes committed against Allied captured personnel, and also civilians. One massacre, the Alexandria Hospital massacre, saw Japanese forces break into the hospital and slaughter a number of doctors and nurses with bayonets and bullets, but they also killed a number of patients too, and many people were forced into small, unventilated rooms, which were overcrowded, and they were given no food or water, which resulted in even more death. Many had to pretend to lay dead for hours to survive. Another massacre at Suqing led to around 25 to 50,000 deaths. The Japanese targeted a number of people, and there were many execution sites which claimed the lives of hundreds of victims. The Japanese wanted to get rid of ethnic Chinese people who were deemed hostile to them, and with this thousands were rounded up and were shot by rifles and machine guns. Whether Yamashita had ordered these events, or whether he was actually responsible for these, still remains debatable today, and some believe he was not, but some believe he actually was. The order to execute 50,000 Chinese people allegedly came from senior officers within Yamashita's staff, and his troops had regularly fought in battles, where afterwards they carried out huge killings to keep the population quiet. Yamashita would later apologise to the survivors of a massacre, and even caught some of his soldiers looting and punished them. It was said he gave the order no looting, no assault, no arson, that any soldier committing these acts would be punished. But these warnings were not listened to, and there were large-scale acts of violence, but he continued to be arguing with the War Ministry. He treated some prisoners of war humanely, which was not considered acceptable, but he then was reassigned in July 1942 to Manchukuo, and was given a post commanding the 1st Area Army. This kept him quiet during the Pacific War, and Tojo the Prime Minister was responsible for ousting him and keeping him away. But on the 26th of September 1944, as the war was going poorly for the Japanese, Yamashita was brought back in from the cold after Tojo and his cabinet fell from power. He took command of the 14th Area Army to defend the Philippines. American forces would land, but Yamashita was in command of 262,000 soldiers in defensive formations. He did not declare Manila an open city before its capture, meaning that defending militaries will not defend the city in battle. This was supposed to be done to save the lives of many and the city, but Manila turned into a huge battlefield, and there were large-scale atrocities and deaths. Street-to-street fighting broke out, and it's believed that 100,000 civilians were killed. But after the surrender of Japan, from the 29th of October to the 7th of December 1945, Yamashita was placed on trial in Manila for war crimes relating to the massacre and the atrocities against the civilians and prisoners of war. He was held responsible, and he nodded his head when asked by his subordinates to execute people without trial. The main accusation was that he failed in his duty as a commander of the Japanese forces to prevent atrocities, and he failed to control those soldiers. Their crimes were placed onto him, and one witness claimed that Yamashita had said, "Wipe out the whole Philippines," since everyone in their islands was either guerrillas or active supporters of the guerrillas. The defence claimed he was not involved in war crimes specifically, and he denied any knowledge of crimes committed by his men. He said he would have punished them harshly if he knew, and he said that, "My command was as big as MacArthur's or Lord Louis Mountbatten's. How could I tell if some of my soldiers misbehaved themselves? It was impossible for any man in my position to control every action of his subordinate commanders, let alone the deeds of individual soldiers. The charges are completely new to me. If they had happened and I had known about them, I would have punished the wrongdoers severely. But in war someone has to lose. What I'm really being charged with is losing the war." General Yamashita was found guilty of war crimes and was sentenced to death. His trial was criticised, and some believed it was a miscarriage of justice. There was an appeal for clemency, but the death sentence was confirmed. Yamashita was held at Los Banos, Laguna prison camp, 30 miles south of Manila, and he was to remain there until his execution. He was led out to the gallows in the courtyard, and there were 13 steps he was led up by the prison guards. He was then passed over to the executioner, who asked him for any final words. It was claimed that he then said, "As I said in the Manila Supreme Court, that I have done with all my capacity, so I don't to shame in front of the gods for what I have done when I died. But if you say to me, you do not have any ability to command the Japanese forces, I shall say nothing for it, because it is my own nature. Now our war criminal trial, going under your kindness and right. I know that all your American and American military affairs always has tolerance and rightful judgment. When I have been investigated in Manila court, I have had good treatment, kindful attitude from your good-natured officers, who protected me all the times. I never forget for me what they have done to me, even if I had died. I don't blame my executioner. I pray the gods bless them. Please send my thankful word to Colonel Clark and Lieutenant Colonel Feldhaus, Lieutenant Colonel Hendricks, Major Guy, Captain Sandberg, Captain Real at Manila Court, and Colonel Arnold. I thank you." After this, the executioner placed a noose around his neck, along with a cap, and final checks were made, before he was placed over the trapdoor, and then the lever was released that opened it. Yamashita passed through, and within seconds he was dead. Today, General Tomoyuki Yamashita's execution remains a controversial one, as his trial set a precedent called commander responsibility, meaning a commander could be held accountable for the crimes of his soldiers, even if he did not order them to specifically do something. He was a skilled military commander who forced the worst disaster in British military history, but under his command a huge number of war crimes were committed by the Japanese army. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.